On the broader topic of trade in China, the United States has an enormous imbalance in trade, as we do with other countries, but none like we do with China. A trade imbalance, by the way, in and of itself is not problematic. It really depends on what's caused it. But the trade imbalance with China is problematic because of how it's happened. China was basically a poor, underdeveloped communist dictatorship, and it decided it wanted to open up to the world and become more economically prosperous. This was many years ago. And so the deal the world made with China is, we're going to help you develop economically. You're going to open up, we're going to help you invest, we're going to help you create opportunity, we're going to let your companies invest in our economies. There are rules in the world for trade. There are things that are allowed and things that are not allowed. For example, you are not allowed to steal another company's secrets. So if another company has figured out how to make something, that's proprietary, they own it, they developed it, they spent money creating it, you are not allowed to go there and steal that from them and start making it yourself. There are rules about, you can't have rules that say your companies cannot sell in my country, but my companies from our country can do whatever we want in your country. There are rules. China has never played by those rules, and everybody knew it. Nobody disputed it. But administrations from both parties, the consensus politically in America was, go ahead, let's let China cheat. Let them keep stealing things. Because once China becomes richer and more prosperous, they'll stop doing that stuff. As soon as China's economy grows big enough, not only will they stop doing all that, but they'll become a democracy. Everyone who said that was wrong. That is not what's happened. They are less democratic, less open today than they used to be, and they are no longer just stealing little secrets to kind of even be in the same ballpark. They are stealing $600 billion a year of intellectual property. $600 billion a year is equivalent to what we spend on the U.S. military. They are stealing the equivalent of that every single year. How do they do it? Well, first of all, just straight out espionage. Time and again. I mean, they hack computers, they hack emails, they have spies embedded inside of companies. They straight out steal it through espionage. The second thing that they do to protect their industries and grow at our expense is they don't allow many of our companies to do business in China. Huge market. Their companies get to do business here, but they don't allow our companies to do business there. Some companies. They do allow other companies to do business in China, but here's the deal. If you do business in China, it has to be a joint venture with a Chinese company, 51% Chinese, 49% American company. And on top of that, there's another catch. If you want to do business in China with a Chinese company, you have to transfer your technology to them. So you want to build turbines? We'll let you build turbines in China, but you have to transfer to us the technology of how you do it. You know why they do that? Because once they figure out how to do it themselves, they don't need their American partner anymore. They kick you out, and now they're your competitor and may even put you out of business. That's happened a bunch of times. If they don't achieve it by forcing you to transfer, then they just straight out steal it from you. They also buy up small companies. You know, we have a law here that's called the CFIUS process, and basically when a foreign company, especially from a country like China, is buying in a key industry, it undergoes this review to make sure that it's not a bad deal, that they could be taking secrets that are tied to national security. So they figured it out. They're just buying small American companies, a bunch of them in many cases, that are under the level that we look at, these subcontractors, and finding their way in that way. Suffice it to say that we have a very serious imbalance with China, but the imbalance is not the dollars. The imbalance is in the structure of trade between China and the United States. And that's why we don't need a short-term trade deal. This is not about saying, all right, go ahead and buy more of our agriculture. Go ahead, you guys go buy more of the stuff that you were going to buy more of anyways, because you need to. And in exchange, you get to keep doing what you're doing now, and there won't be any tariffs. That's a short-term deal. And it might be a good headline. You can claim that you won. But in the end, it doesn't do anything to change this. In fact, it leaves us worse off. You might as well not have even gotten into this in the first place. You have actually strengthened them even more. And how they win this fight, by the way, let me tell you how they win. They go to all those American multinational corporations, many of whom are just interested in how their stock is performing from quarter to quarter, and they go to them and say, lobby your congressman, lobby your senator, lobby the White House, and convince them to drop all this. And they do it. Because these companies, what they want to do is they want access to the 1.3 billion people. A lot of them, they don't care if they're only 49% of the company in China. They don't care if they're stealing their intellectual property. By the time that matters, the CEO and the people making that decision will be long ago retired with a huge golden parachute bonus because they delivered a bunch of quarters of earnings. That's so short-sighted. They may not care about it, but those of us who work here have to. Because we do not want to live in a world where China dominates industry, not because they out-innovated us or worked harder, that's because they stole it from us. And by the way, the Chinese have figured all of this out. They have figured out exactly how to get things done in American politics. They don't lobby the government, they lobby the business sector. And then all these large corporations go marching into Capitol Hill and into the White House and scream and plead to drop all this. Of course they do. Because they're going to make a lot of money in China over the next 5 or 6 years. But a lot of these companies are one day going to be out of business. Short-term thinking. Their obligations are to their shareholders. Their shareholders are not all Americans. Our obligations are to the American people and America's future. And this is disastrous. We need a structural rebalance, not just a dollar rebalance. We need that. China is not a developing country. It is the second largest economy in the world. It will soon be the largest economy in the world. And yet we continue to let them cheat and steal. That's the trade issue. China intends to dominate the world in the key technologies of the 21st century: aerospace, biotech, quantum computing, artificial intelligence, 5G and telecommunication. They're going to dominate the world. You know why I know that? It isn't because I read some fancy article. It isn't because I'm on the Intel committee. It isn't because of a hearing. It isn't because of a meeting. You know how I know that? Because China says it. They have a plan called China 2025, Made in China 2025. And here's what the plan basically means. By the year 2025, China will be the dominant country in the world in these 10 to 12 industries, which happen to be the 10 or 12 industries that are going to determine the fate of the 21st century. Biotech. That basically means genetic medicine, the ability to cure diseases like Alzheimer's disease and others that are going to be a plague on the world in the years to come. Aerospace means technology for space. It also means aircraft and the like. They don't intend to be competitive in those fields. They intend to dominate those fields. Now, you may say, well, what's wrong with that? Countries can want to dominate fields. Well, that's fine. If you are going to become the dominant power in the world in these key technologies, you have every right to do so, but not by breaking the rules. And that's how they're doing it. How does China intend, what are they doing in order to dominate the world in 2025? To their credit, they invest a lot of money in research and in development. They also invest a lot of money in stealing whatever we've already done. So think about it. America invests taxpayer money, we innovate something, we innovate it, and after we spend all of your money innovating these things, they take it from us and steal it. It costs them nothing to start out exactly where we are after years and years of work. So think about that for a moment. That is an enormous competitive advantage. They have free research funded by the American taxpayer. They steal it. What else do they do? Do we not understand where we are headed? You have a country that is actively saying, we are going to displace you. We are going to be the most powerful country in the world, and we are going to do that at your expense. I can think of no more significant issue from the perspective of history than what is happening now. And do not misunderstand me. I do not come here to say that I want to be unnecessarily aggressive with China or that I want there to be a confrontation. China is going to be a rich and a powerful country. And we have no problem with that. We can't have any problem with that. But there has to be a balance. It cannot be a China that is rich and powerful and an America that is weak and not prosperous. Because those imbalances are what create wars. Those imbalances are what create misery. Those imbalances are what destabilize the planet. That can't be. We need to recalibrate this relationship. It needs to be rebalanced on the trade side. It needs to be protective on our national security side. It needs to be equalized. And what do you think the world's going to look like in 20 or 30 years? It's not going to be a better place. Democracy is morally superior to autocratic regimes. We should not be afraid to say that. And if for no other reason, if you want to put aside economics for a moment and confront it from that angle, we cannot allow an autocratic dictatorship to dominate the global economy and global technology by stealing from us at the expense of the democratic order in the world. Democracies are morally superior to dictatorships. And if we allow China to cheat and steal their way into dominance, there will be more dictatorships and less democracies on this planet. And we will all pay a price for that. So I urge everyone to take this issue seriously. And I urge the President to listen carefully to those in his own administration who understand this threat holistically for what it is. And I urge them to move in a direction that recalibrates the structure of our relationship with China economically, and that does not allow not just ZTE, but numerous other telecom companies from continuing to grow and spy at our expense. That is what I encourage them to do. That is the right thing to do for the future of this country, not some short-term deal that makes us feel good and potentially gets you a positive headline in the short term, but which historians will condemn as the beginning of the end of America's place in the world.